Good afternoon, guys. We'll just give it a minute for people to enter the room. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Louise Anninger, representing Informa Connect. Welcome to today's webinar, which is titled The Show Must Go On, Supporting the Live Event Industry. This topic is so relevant right now, and we really hope you gain some more insight into how event professionals view the current situation. It's a community discussion and a chance to look at a more positive future for when live events are finally back in business. And what can small businesses and freelancers do in the meantime to promote themselves and their brand? Just before we get started, just want to tell you a little bit about why we've organised this webinar. We just really want and hope to bring together the events community and the industry that Informa Connect is very much a part of. We want to give back to our community. Just some quick housekeeping tips. If you ever face any connection issues at any point, just refresh your page or clear your cache using Control F5 and it will bring you straight back in the room. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, just post them in the chat box and we will try to get back to them towards the end of the session. Our moderator for today is the lovely Maxine English. Maxine is a partner at Parkplane Live with many years of experience in the industry. Maxine, over to you.
Hi guys, welcome everybody. Thanks for the introduction. We've all been chatting beforehand and we're really excited to talk to you all today. There's lots to talk about. We really want your input into this. I know you guys are going to be filling up the chat box there with lots of questions and answers. We'll try as much as we can. Do engage because this is all for you. We're not here to talk at you. This is for everybody. One of the things that has become very obvious very fast is that there is a big community with a very loud voice, and that's what this is about. So what we'll quickly do is just quickly introduce everyone here, although I think everybody knows everybody, and then we'll launch straight in. So Dan?
So yeah, good afternoon now everyone. My name is Dan Bolton and I own Dan Bolton Creative Management Agency, and I specialise in supplying performers, creating shows and performances for live events here in the region. Perfect.
Paul, over to you.
Yes, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us for a conversation that we all need to have. I'm a musician, a saxophone player, and I run Vento Entertainment, which is an events and entertainment company. I probably worked with some of you before, and I'm really happy to see such an amazing turnout in the chat here.
Dave?
Hi, my name is Dave Crane. I've been in Dubai for about 8 billion years. I'm an entertainer by trade. I train people to speak. I speak all around the world, and I've changed to being a virtual broadcaster as well. And I'll give you my website, my email address, and I'd love to talk to you.
Thanks, Dave. Catherine?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Broad. I run an event management consultancy. I work with an array of clients from event companies in the live entertainment industry, and what we specialise in is making sure we can help all our clients deliver great experiences to their clients by maximising commercial success as well.
And over to you, Sudeep.
Good afternoon, team. This is Sudeep. I run a AV company. We are an audiovisual rental company, been in the market for past 16 years. So hence, we help all the event management companies keep their events alive. Thank you.
Amazing. So we're going to start with you, Dan, and we're going to start with a little bit of positivity. Talk us through what positives have come out of the last 8 to 9 weeks for you, and what are you going to be continuing to take with you as we move forward?
Max, I think that's a very loaded question because the last few months have been very challenging for all of us.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could sit here all day and we can talk about the negatives, but the reality is we actually need to start moving the conversation on now. And we really want to start talking about the positives. And to be honest, the positives are that we're all starting to reevaluate and to look at what was wrong with the industry and to see what was, previously wasn't working. And we now have the opportunity to reimagine how we want it to be and to collectively work together in order to do that. I think there's been some incredible discussions happening behind the scenes with multiple WhatsApp groups, with Charles Chacker and his guys from, the nightlife industry. People do tangibly want to come together and support each other in a moment of crisis, a moment of challenge. We're all going through the same type of problems, very differently, I'm sure, for many of us. But ultimately, we all have a vested interest to make sure that our event industry is successful, and that live events do come back, and that they come back safely when they do. And I think one of the key takeaways is that now the conversation is talking about well-being, and that's going to be very key in terms of how we look after our audiences, but also how we look after our employees, our staff, the people we work with. That'll be key in the future, definitely moving ahead. Okay,
and Paul, the same question to you. I know you've been heavily involved in a lot of the community noise that we've been talking about recently, that everybody's kind of come together. So what are your positives that you're taking away from this? Lost Paul. Okay. Okay, so Dave, over to you. I know I'm going to use the word, we're going to use it once and then it's done. You've had a bit of a pivot, and so you're relentlessly positive at the moment. Talk us through that.
Well, I reinvented myself. I looked at the situation, which is there's going to be no gigs for a while. And therefore, if you're expecting to pay bills by doing that, you have to offer something else to the market. So I looked at where the people are, and they're still online, and people are at home. And as a speaker, you have to kind of find a new way to reach people. So for me, it was very simple, creating my training as an online version and presenting to people online, and also connecting with people online. And the beautiful thing for me has been a very simple thing, that whereas, and a lot of the conversation today will be about the UAE centric market, what has happened is you now are in the same boat as everybody else around the world. So you've gone from a potential, I don't know, say a couple of million people that you can broadcast and reach by doing events, to now being across 7+ billion people. So a company event doesn't have to be who can come to Dubai. It can be in their homes anywhere. And so for me, it's been an interesting learning curve. It's not been straightforward. It's taken a lot of work, and I never stopped, and I've hardly watched Netflix. I watch quite a bit of Netflix. But it has been a case of wondering where the world is going now. And I think we're talking about a hybrid between online and offline will be the end result.
Yeah, so Catherine, if we just come across to you to talk about some of those positives and that hybrid that Dave's just mentioned. I know that's something that you talked about before, in terms of how do we merge the live events with live online events, and when we talk about them, and also some of the challenges that you've faced. I know that you've really changed, and you're looking at things in a very different way as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited. As Dan said, there was a shift that you had to start looking at things more positive. And what I'm really excited about is the technology element. And the live events is never going to go away. We're humans. We want that connection. We want to listen to live music. We want to be in the room. But what's great is how these are going to come together. And some other companies have already been doing this for a long time. If you look at Social Media Examiner, by the way, they're a great website, a great resource. And for years, they've been combining live events and online events and getting revenue from them. So I think this is something that I can see a lot of SMEs around the region already developing. I've seen a lot of my clients shift. A lot of my clients work in theatre, and they've come up with some really creative stuff, creating live theatre on Zoom. And it'll be really interesting as we move to when the live events get to start taking off again, how we combine them. And I'm really excited because we've got a great talent for industry peers here about what they're going to come up with creatively.
Okay, so now that you're back in the room, Paul, I think we've been talking a little bit about some of the positives that have come out of this. And one of the things that you were really positive about earlier, and I know you want to talk about it, is the fact that the community has found its voice together rather than individually. And we were talking about being change makers, and that actually the change starts with the freelancers, the SMEs, us here on the ground. There's been a lot of talk recently about what will people do for us, but then there's a big voice from you saying, well, what are we going to do for ourselves?
Absolutely, and I think the thing, harking back to what I really feel is a positive that's come from this entire situation, is that there has been this push for community, and there have been people who have brought us together, and we're having the conversations that need to be had. When things are working normally, we're also very busy, and we're caught up in what we're doing, and we're also very caught up in the competitiveness of how it is running a business. We are in very commercial, very capitalistic markets, and that really affects the way that we interact with each other. But the fundamental reality is we're all in the same situation here. whether we're friends or whether we're not, whether we're competitors, we're all subject to the same sort of regulations. We're all subject to the same sort of challenges. And now is a fantastic opportunity for us to come together, to have the conversations that need to be had. I'm not saying that we need to continue just whinging and talking about the issues we've had. Well, let's come together. Let's put some real achievable, realistic goals together. Let's approach entities like ILIA and the DTCM and communicate together on what it is that's going to help us moving forward. What is going to get us back doing our events with health and safety as a priority, but also what's going to help our industry have a fair and beneficial foundation for everybody. This is really the most important thing that I think has come out of this circumstance, and I really see it as a positive.
Yeah, so if we talk about what Paul was saying there, which is one of the things that we wanted to focus on today that we're all very clear on is like practical solutions for how we actually move the conversation on rather than just continuing to have the conversation. So Dan, if I come to you, we're talking about, we'll start with the SMEs and what practical solutions and what things we can actually physically do to support SMEs. So what can we do for ourselves as SMEs as we move forward? And then we can start to look at what other people can do to help us. But really, in the beginning, what can SMEs do for themselves, Dan?
Oh, good question. I mean, the main thing is that as the economy starts to reopen, we need to start looking at how we can really support our own businesses here and also support locally based, the people which are, legally registered here, legally got a foundation and employ people, especially freelancers, who've been massively affected throughout all of this. For me, the big takeaway is that over the next few weeks, months, years ahead, we need to start looking at how we can simplify lots of these processes, as how we can become more efficient, more effective. And I think one big thing is, we talked earlier about the pitch process and how we can try and stop wasting people's time. When we're getting all these documents, all these proposals from clients or proposals from whoever wanted to procure an event, we spend so much time and resources in putting all this together. The reality is that money just doesn't exist anymore. We don't have the infrastructure and the finances to be able to invest in terms of putting lots of this stuff together. So I think it's about making sure that we have these tangible conversations with people and really highlight and specify who do we want to work with, what do we want to do, and how can we help each other, and really do build that two-way communication, that conversation, so that it's something a bit more tangible. And again, it's just we just need to streamline the whole process and just make it simpler and easier, more effective and cost-effective to be able to do business.
Catherine?
Talking about that, I work with lots of different clients and lots of event companies, and I think what people need to do is, some people are really great at this, some companies are great at this, get a qualifying process in place. A lot of event companies that I deal with just go for every pitch. There's so many array of events out there, and there is a big pie, but understand what your niche is and own it. And, if the pitch doesn't make sense to you, if it's not really fitting in with your business model, it's okay to politely turn it down. And as you say, work with the community. I even recommend sometimes people that I know, this is not the right fit for me, but I do know who is the right fit for you. And, get that qualifying process in. Don't waste your time as a company if it doesn't really suit you. Or maybe you could see it working by collaborating with another event company or another supplier or partner and do that. But it's really key to get that. Just don't chase everything. Understand what you offer and own it.
There's a question come in just to say, how do we go about engaging with private entities and freelancers? How do they go about engaging with the public authorities? Do they meet? How do they do that? Dan, as the ex-president of ILEA, how difficult it is for voices to be heard. So talk us through the voices right now.
It's really challenging and really frustrating. You know what? I had an honest conversation with Paul Berger, who is the outgoing president of ILEA at the moment, and I handed over to Khalid from DXB Live in the Trade Centre, I think the 1st of July. And the reality is that ILEA is the only legally recognised trade association for the events industry. And I do believe that they've opened up the membership for the next few months to be able to get people on board. And in order to have your voice heard, you do actually need to join an organisation or a network of people. ILEA might not be the right one for you, but it is about that collective, because it's no longer about the individual. It's about all of us working together to better the industry and to see how we can all survive as a collective as a whole. So I think we often feel that freelancers and small businesses have their voices drowned out, especially by the big boys at the top. So it would be to get more involved as a group and to start sharing those ideas and to start coming up with tangible solutions. Nobody likes to hear about problems. especially if you're trying to engage with an authority type figure. They want to find solutions which can improve our industry. So it's about working together to put them and formalize them and present them in a tangible way.
Yeah, Paul?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Dan there. And I think that what's really important is that people are scared to talk. And that's part of the reason why I'm here now on this webinar. And I will take more initiative to join others too, because I like to talk. I talk a lot. Everybody who knows me knows that. I agree that we need to be respectful and we need to be delicate at times about what we say. Maybe delicate is the wrong word. I think, though, what the real priority is to voice our grievances, to voice them respectfully and appropriately. If organizations like ILIA can assist us, being an official registered trade organization, then great. I've emailed ILIA and I've asked them to become a member. I want to be a member. I want to be heard. I think that they potentially have the capacity to reach people that I as an individual can't. And I, to be honest, don't see that much conversation from the majority of freelancers, SMEs, and other people who are in exactly the same situation as me. There are the usual voices, including those here with us now today, and then everybody else sits back and doesn't say anything, and maybe they want to capitalize on the work and the voice of other people. Maybe they're just scared. I don't know exactly what the reality of that is, but the fundamental reality is that if we have a communal voice, if we come together with goals and then we all put our names on a piece of paper and deliver it, whether it's to ILIA, to the DTCM, and actually quantify those goals that we need, that we want to achieve, and then put our names to it, I don't see us being ignored. We have great leadership here, and they know it's in their interests as much as it is ours to help us and build a working economy, a sustainable economy.
Yeah, so we welcome to Mark Hill, who's just dropped in there a note to say that he acknowledges there's a huge voice within the community, and that obviously there's a home for all of these voices within ILIA, and there's been a couple of questions there, again, more asking who speaks to the authorities, and it is ILIA. And as Paul just said there, join and speak to them. That's what they're there for, and the better we can support each other. Dave, just over to you on that front in terms of how we do that.
Yeah, from my experience of having been an artist in Dubai for like 30 odd years, which is why I look so grey and so much like Morgan Freeman or like everybody else on the panel, I think that the big challenge across the industry is if you are a creative and you are an artist, you don't have a voice because you don't think like a business person. You want to go out and you want to do your stuff, and you're hoping that the people above you who are organizing the events understand that. And it really needs somebody in the decision-making process to get where freelancers and artists are coming from. We just want to do our thing. And I think in many cases, and this is true when it comes to actually being hired and being hired for free and all the stuff that's been in the industry for the last couple of years, that's been really bad, while people are chasing themselves to the bottom of the food chain as you try and outdo each other for free. It needs to have artists involved in the system to be able to understand what is going on and change the mindset of how this all thing gets put together.
Which takes us probably directly to a subject that we thought possibly might be coming a little bit longer, is that you mentioned it there, Paul, is DTCM, and some of the big response that we've had that people want to talk about is the permit process and the way that people operate. So if we come to DTCM first, and I'll come straight to you, Paul, because we've already talked about this, is how do we start going about practical solutions to streamline the current processes with DTCM? Where are we at with that?
Well, just before we started the webinar, you directed some questions at me in regards to, the initial one that you mentioned was, should we move the permit processing to the actual performers so that there is some flexibility in the way that performers can come and substitute other performers. Let's say you have a musician or a DJ, they're sick on one evening. We have these challenges where it's so difficult to replace that person in a legal way, although there may be somebody readily available to come and perform. This decentralizing of the way the permit system can work can potentially be a good way to solve that issue. I mean, to play devil's advocate on that, I would say that, well, me as a performer, I license myself legally already by having a trade license. There are other freelancers out there who license themselves as freelancers. And so maybe the devil's advocate argument that might come from freelancers and performers is, well, why should I pay again for a permit when I've already paid for, say, a trade license or a freelance permit? Maybe we can work some sort of permit system into the yearly freelancers fee. But then on another level, maybe there can be a broader permit that a live venue can use that allows them to have an umbrella entertainment license that gives them permission to do certain sorts of activities. There may be tiers. Obviously, we're not going to, get everybody down to McGettigans for a 10,000 person concert, but there may be tiers of umbrella permits that allow substitute performers to come in and different manners to license and regulate a smoother process rather than so much red tape.
Okay, so then if I throw that across to you, Catherine, because you and I both, from an artist perspective, both theatre and for both event permits, it's a bit of a challenge. So, in your opinion, I mean, we know it needs to be streamlined, but also, is there a complete lack of clarity on who needs what and who does what and who needs to get what, and is everyone operating the system properly?
Yeah, and this is the two constant battles I kind of come up with in the industry. One is it would be great for there to be a more streamlined process, or great ideas from Paul. There's something more flexible. As you know, Maxine, we've produced a lot of theatre in the region, and when you want tickets to go on sale, you have a certain process to go through, and you need your permit for your ticket process. But sometimes you might cast at different processes for this theatre production. So it'd be great if there was just a more flexible option that you could kind of have options to change entertainers, and like Paul said, or have an umbrella entertainment permit, which would be great. That could be more flexible, and a streamlined process as well. The DTCM.
Do you also think it's a communication thing? You mentioned earlier that there are easier ways with other government entities to actually interact. Do you think that it could come down to something as simple as that? Yeah,
and I think it could. Yes. Easier ways. For example, I've seen other government entities run actually really good WhatsApp service. As event planners, we're really used to WhatsApp, and that'll be a great tool. And it could also help. There's a lot of misinformation out there. I deal with a lot of clients inbound from Europe, and sometimes they don't understand the permit process because they've never come across it before in Europe. So it can be really confusing to them. It can sometimes be intimidating. They sometimes don't budget for it. And also, because it's the first time they've heard about it, they will go and check with different sources. And people sometimes don't always operate in the same way and try to give them ways to work around it when you can't. And actually, if you're not sure of it, if you're not sure of the DTCM process, check with an authority like AILA, like Mark Hill, like the DTCM, to make sure you're giving the right information out there, because it's really frustrating when I literally have sometimes clients saying, no, you definitely don't need this. And I'm there going, you do, and there's penalties if you don't. So that will help, I think, streamline that process and make it easier.
Yeah, and so on that, Sudeep, if we come across to you, I know we're talking about permits and procedures and things, and you were talking earlier about some of the ways that you guys are practically trying to help people. If you would like to talk us through the practical solutions that you guys have put in place, because that's going to take us on to another subject that there's some questions coming in about. Bear with us, everyone. We are going to get to them.
Absolutely. Just to take it from where Dave told clearly that we need to reinvent ourselves at that moment. I mean, yes, there are procedures and practical things that we can do, but what we at AV Concepts also are doing is we have taken up a space, we have built up a stage sound, which is our strength, with screens out, and we're calling in artists, we're calling in people who can perform, who can go live from there and also create a portfolio for themselves. It is basically, the idea is to make sure all the artists or the freelancers or the event freelancers are busy doing something, making sure using their creativity or technical knowledge at service, so that while they go back to the event space, they are updated. And much of our freelancers who definitely work with us on a daily basis, when it's the season time, it's the best time for them to come down, learn new skills, and understand if there is something else they can be acquired with, and make sure once everything is back, they're back with a bang.
Okay, and then Paul, I'll just come across to you. There's a question in there, and Dan, this one I'll throw over to you after Paul as well. Is that, and this is artists for me as well as freelancers. Lucy's just said that there's a lot of freelancers doing a lot of stuff for free, which I know I feel very strongly about, and artists are doing it as well. And there's a very fine line there. So from a perspective of people doing things for free at this time, online, digitally, and for their clients and partners, where do you sit on that, Paul?
Yeah, look, I think this is a really important topic. Any market that is flooded with a product will have the outcome of that product being devalued. And the reality of a musician is that they are the product. If you are streaming your content online and not monetizing it, you will fundamentally devalue that talent, that product that you're putting out there. Don't get me wrong, I've tuned into a lot of different streams and it's absolutely awesome. And there's also a real big community effort all around the world, with music being used as a real powerful tool to express emotion, protest. Those things are exceptionally important, but I'm approaching this from a business perspective here. And I think it's very important that if we're going to do the virtual, and I will reference Dan's push that it's all about live, and we need to get our live gigs back. I personally, as a musician, don't want to sit in front of a computer and stream. I want to be out there with my friends, with my colleagues, having a real live experience. I'm a social creature. And as much as I think platforms like this and other online streaming platforms are fantastic, I really love walking around a festival, meeting new people, seeing those ones that I've already met before. And, you know, if you can monetize something you love, then you'll never work a day in your life. And I think this is incredibly important as a musician, to monetize your streams. And for us as a community, if it's going to go in that direction to some, you know, in some way, that we need to come together as a community to find a way to monetize those streams.
Okay, so Dan, if we come across to you, there's a lot of chat about people, you know, operating incorrectly, illegally, for free, not getting the right permits, giving stuff away for free, and I tend to agree with Paul there that if we all try and monetize things, then it's about how do we stop people taking advantage. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, we just need to be really careful about putting too much content online for free, like Paul just mentioned, because you run the risk of becoming a commodity. Because if people are just constantly putting stuff out there, then there's no true value to it. For me personally, the main thing is just to make sure that we get back to doing live, and we need to be pushing that and amplifying that message as much as possible, and working together to be able to show people that we can create live experiences, we can innovate, we can pivot if we have to. I said it once. But that we can actually bring value to venues, because venues are hurting right now, F&B venues especially. You know, what is it that we can do differently? And then also working with digital platforms to be able to amplify that message to much wider audiences. But the key for all of us is we all need to get back to doing live events and get back to doing work. Because if we can all sit here all day and try and figure out how to monetize live streams or digital content, but the reality is that everyone's just putting it out there for free anyway. So it's an uphill battle. The way we get back to work and the way we get back to earning is by doing live.
And so we said this at the beginning of the conversation, and Catherine, I'm just going to come over to you and ask you this as well, because it's being asked over in the questions, and it's something we said. It's practical solutions, you know, that we're seeing. So where I think we're all a bit webinared out. There's a genuine thing now, that's Zoom fatigue, because there's so many people having conversations. I know that there's a women in events group. There is the industry collective now, with a lot of artists talking to each other about actual solutions that are all getting put together in one place, and then they're going to get presented to ILEA so that ILEA can present these onwards to people like DTCM, etc. From a practical solution point of view, Catherine, what are your thoughts on what do we physically do, and how, if anybody wants to talk or join the conversation, what can they do?
There is lots of options out there. I mean, join IELA. They are a fantastic entity, and they can really help as well. Get the message across. But there is we're talking about practical tips to help get back into the live event industry. I think we need to be ready for it. We need to be nimble, flexible. There's a lot of people I see, they're just waiting for it to happen, and it will happen again. There's a lot of people already putting tools in place to be ready to go. And what I'm excited about is, yes, technology is here. It's not going to replace, but it's going to make events even better and how they integrate it. I already see a lot of SMEs already combining together and coming up with a lot of different solutions. I think events are going to come back. I think they're going to look slightly different to what we're used to seeing them. They will start small and they will get bigger, but people are already adapting their strategies. And I already see people have offerings for small events and what they can deliver for you. And I think that's really great because people have already seen that they're ready to go, and you can purchase and have these experiences with them. And as soon as we get the go ahead, these companies are already there and advertising their products will be ahead of the game. I think, Dave, did you want to add something to that, Dave? I just
love listening to you. I was just waiting because it was good. The point I was going to make is a couple of things. First of all, I think it's a case of looking at your business model and reinventing it. I mean, if you look at every single industry, they've gone through the same kind of mindset change that we have to go through in the entertainment and events business. If you look at something like Airbnb, for instance, they're a very simple thing. They've got a business model that says, right, when you go to stay somewhere, then you do it through us and we'll give you an extra 2 weeks of quarantine, so you're there for a month. That's what they did at first. But then they reinvented again. They said, hold on, we've got a switchboard model so we can connect people at one end with people from the other end. So what we're going to do is we're going to sell virtual experiences. So therefore, if you're sitting at home and you're bored, but you want to go to a safari park in Kenya, you can pay a fee and somebody will go and do it for you on Zoom and show you all the animals. If you want to see the dogs of Chernobyl, or you want to learn how to make a pizza, then you can do it. You can pay $25, $35. So what they've done is they've just taken a left field and said, right, what have we got in front of us? We've got connections. What do people want? So that's one of the things I think we should do in this region. We've got so much talent based here, so many freelancers, so many smart event organizers and brilliant venues. Let the world see this place as an incredible venue, not just to physically come, but to get access to. So get everybody doing concerts, get them sold around the world. Everybody makes money, and the scaling and the monetization is easy when you've got those kind of numbers to play with.
And can I just add to that, Dave? I was reading a really interesting article that Zoom, they have had a revenue increase in Q1 by 169%. That is huge. And I think what we've got here is people who maybe were a bit technology shy before now know how to use it. And it's not about virtual versus live events. It's about incorporating them and thinking how you can use them together and to increase revenue as well. Like you said, about wider audiences now with eyes on Dubai.
So I think we've lost Maxine. Yeah. I think she just disappeared. So Sudeep, I can see you're dying to jump in.
So, just want to add up to what Catherine and Dave spoke about is basically this everything going digital would just add up to what the live events will look like. And then for a corporate point of view, when we take the end client, they should be really looking at merging both and making sure they have a wide spectrum of audiences. Earlier, if it was 200, now we are looking at 200,000 people coming down and looking at the event. So the engagement would be more. There would be, with the live events, people would go to webinars as well, look at that options as well. And still we can have entertainment being put up to the live event and the virtual event as well, if you look at the kind of events that people are doing. So I think it would be a good mix of both coming together and having a wide spectrum. Your whole market would be opened up for you. Yeah.
Hi guys, sorry. I'm back. Paul?
Yeah, I just want to get back to that point about practical being practical, and we all love to talk, and there's a lot of talking, and everybody's tired of everyone talking. So we'll continue to talk, but then we need to move forward in a practical way. And what does that actually mean? Well, first, I want to really say everybody's looking to somebody else to solve their problem for them. Okay, take some initiative and contact the people you feel need to be contacted. I've emailed the Federal Tax Authority. There are certain issues that I'm facing in regards to running a company, VAT, non-payments, and I've gone and I've contacted legal support systems. I've gone and contacted official government entities. Basically I'm saying, don't wait for somebody else to come and help you. Help yourself first and foremost. And then if you do find someone or a community that can assist, like Ilya, or, a more homegrown entertainment community like we're seeing spring up, then great. But you need to take responsibility. Don't just point the finger and say, what's being done for practical ways forward? Well, what are you doing for practical ways forward? Share it with me. There's not that many conversing. And I also want to reference this question here, because this relates exactly to what I'm saying in regards to being practical. And the question is, what will agencies do to keep the minimum rate? Will you turn down rates as agencies that aren't fair for the freelancers? I run an agency, so this is very applicable to me. Will the margin become smaller? And I mean, these questions, these topics are all very interlinked. And I agree that unfortunately, the musicians and the freelancers are at the bottom of the food chain. And if hotels and other larger companies don't have revenue enough to pay the right fees or pay fair fees, they're also going to have to be paying these DTCM fees and other regulation fees, and this is going to impact the freelancer too. Yeah. When I run an agency, I make sure that my freelancers get fair rates, and that's what I'm doing to be practical to make sure things are fair.
Okay. So there has been word that DTCM will be looking at freezing permits and fees and ticketing fees. We haven't had any actual detail on that. If anybody has seen detail, but the people on this call have not, because I know that I've tried to investigate it and haven't had any clarity on it. It's been a blanket statement that it's coming, but as we can't apply for an event permit, we don't actually know what that is. So we can say that they're going to do it, but we haven't had any actual clarity on that. So from that perspective, until that actually happens, we don't know. What I will say, and I think I'll ask this to Catherine, I know you've got something to say as well, but while you're at it, what Paul was just saying there is that there's a conversation piece to be had, that there's a lot of people who will, like you, Paul, say, no, it's not a fair rate, we're not taking it. And there's a conversation to be had with the people who do take it. And what that does to the economy and how much longer it will take us to get back on our feet if people don't all stand together and try and make this a meet in the middle situation for both venues, DTCM, and us, because DTCM have to generate revenue, the venues have to generate revenue, and the artists and the performers also have to live. So it's about where we meet in the middle. Catherine?
Yeah, and this is really important, and I can understand freelancers and artists' concern here. But what I'm seeing from the top venues, not all venues, but a lot of venues are offering really great deals at the moment for contracting. There's a lot of the big names out there. You need to check with each property individually that are offering discounts on rates. They're offering for the first time ever really good contractual terms with regards to cancellation and attrition. And I think when you're the event company and you're the person pulling this all together, that's going to really help you have confidence to book and then get these live events off the ground once it starts. But I think as anyone who is the main decision maker or project management in anywhere in this supply chain, I think it's really key to be operating ethically and transparency. So, set your prepayment terms. We talked earlier about it's going to be cash flow. That's going to be the big one that comes up next for live events. So make sure that, if you're the decision maker, that you're releasing payments on time, that, anyone involved in this process understands when the deposits are coming and make sure you adhere to them. And if you're in a situation where you're working and there's no contract in place or this is not clear, you implement it, even if you're the freelancer. As you said, Paul, help yourself, take control. Practical tips now, if you don't have contract templates in place, use this time now to write them to protect yourself. It's just really key to be transparent the whole process.
And one of the nice things there, Catherine, is as well, for anyone who is listening who does want to reach out, you do have ILEA. You also have all of the people that you're looking at on this screen. There is a community. There are WhatsApp groups. If you need help right now during this period with contracts, rates, what's a standard rate, who should you be talking to, reach out. Yeah. There are plenty of people who will help you for free. Now is the time to do it. And I'm going to come across to you, Dave. I know you've got a point on this, being both artist and straddling kind of both sides of that.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things I'll say. First of all, looking at the list of people on this call is a who's who of the industry, which is a real brilliant thing to have. And some of you still owe me money. I'm just saying that. But what we wanted to look at was the fact that if you take a look at what we're going through right now and look at the different industries, think about the gaming industry. The gaming industry isn't that different from the live events industry. It changed to an online model, it changed its business, and it's thriving and making more than ever before. It probably makes more than we do. And it's going to get bigger and bigger. Somewhere along the line, we have to start looking outside of what we're doing and hoping we go back to what we did before, because that's gone. Forget it. That's not going to exist anymore. I mean, one of the things that I did was I created, with a friend of mine, a TV show online called the toiletpaperdiaries.com, if you're interested. And we just thought, right, what we'll do is we'll connect with people. And we got speakers, reporters from all over the world, and it became a big thing. Now, that came from out of nowhere. Right now, every single person who's streaming for free or giving away their content for free doesn't necessarily have to do that. The evidence of business models, the evidence of connection, and the scalability is right there. You just have to look deeper and connect with people and ask better questions.
So from a perspective of that as well, just there's a lot of questions coming is how can you get involved in the conversation? There's various ways. If you are a musician, there are things like Facebook groups. There's a Facebook group called the Professional Musicians of the UAE. And what they have done, which is a nice way of looking at it. And because, as you said earlier, Paul, there's some sensitivities that we have to be careful about. We aren't going to be going on Facebook or in a WhatsApp group and saying, don't work with X company, they're paying under rate. But what they are doing in the musicians Facebook group is doing a name and shine instead of name and shame. So if you have a venue that you work with who's great, or you have a supplier that you work with who is great and they pay you on time and they are fair and they help you, then talk about them. Talk about them all the time. When you see a post go up where people are looking for business, if you want to recommend someone, do. I was looking for a musician the other day, and someone who is over there on the right, Stewie, said, you can trust her. She'll get you the best rate that is available. That goes a long way if you don't know people. It's all about communication for me. So Sudeep, if we come across to you there, I know you've got a point to make on that front.
Yeah. So no, my point was what Dave told clearly is looking outside the box and understanding what business is available there. But just to put a positive note to the audiovisual industry as well, or to our industry, is basically, if we at this moment every year we used to go back home or just maintain our equipment, but at this moment we are working on something that is putting a space out together. That means that from next year, when things go back to normal, even at the dry months, we have something or the other to do. That's a positive that we can take, and still people can speak about events, do events in the dry season, or going online in that 4 months of dry season basic. So it can be a good mix of both.
Okay, Dan, if I can just come to you and just talk to you quite quickly about some of the things that people are saying, codes of practices, they need to be put in place. And we talked about this earlier. What can we do to lobby some of the larger companies, the big government companies here, who, with all sensitivity, the pitching that you talked about earlier, payments on time, the conversation is happening. How can we lobby these people to try and get us all onto one page?
You kind of froze a little bit, so I'm hoping I'm going to answer the question correctly. But ultimately, we need the leaders in our industry to really step up now and to help drive some of this change. It has to come from the industry itself. So all of these people which are at the top of the industry and help lead it, now is the time when we need you the most. So it is to make sure that we're paying freelancers on time. And that's really difficult because I owe people money right now. And the whole cash flow from the top is an incredibly difficult position for all of us, I'm sure. But also making sure, we're looking after our freelancers, those people which we're relying upon to deliver projects, to pitch for us and to win projects. How can we ensure that we're sustaining them and we're looking after them and keeping them within our industry, especially throughout these hard times. So really, yeah, it's looking for the leadership and the guidance for people to actually take charge of this and to say, do you know what, like we're all in it together and we're all going to make it necessary.
So the question coming there's, one for you, Dave, is how do you grow an online event organically? How does it work? On what platforms, people who've got minimal technical knowledge, have you got any advice for those people who are wanting to kind of be a bit more hybrid?
Yeah, I think what you've got to do first of all is you've got to start looking at the conventional social media opportunities to reach more people, because that's already there. All the time now, there's new ways of coming onto being able to broadcast to more and more people. But the main mindset has to be that locality has changed. You could be in any country, anywhere, and still do business with anybody, anywhere. There's no reason why, if the gaming industry can't do it, but we can't do it in music and entertainment and in speaking and in events. I mean, I'm happy to have that discussion with anybody to help them reinvent themselves. But what it comes down to is it's a change in motion. Right now, 3 months ago, nobody was doing it, or a handful of people are doing it. Now everyone's talking about it. Zoom right now is the king of all online communication. However, Microsoft and Google and everybody else are starting to create their own versions that will come into battle with that. So there's no set way of doing it. What you have to think about, and this is true for any business or any relationship, is what's in it for them. What are you giving to other people? Forget about you. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about me. They only care about what's in it for them. So create something that makes it easy for other people first.
Okay. And then, Paul, if I come across to you from an artist perspective, we talked about this kind of hybrid. You're super keen to get back out there and have live events. I know I am. And a lot of people are asking the question over here, when? And I think we've all said, no, none of us have got a crystal ball. I know I've got a few events in the pipeline, physical events that we're looking at kind of October, November, but there's no proof that that is a thing. That's just a hope from my perspective. We're starting to see the rest of the world, live events are starting to come back on stream. And people are asking that question, where are you with that, Paul? Because I know that you're a big, you want us to get back out there.
Yeah, look, the reality is I need to get back to work. My colleagues need to get back to work. I before all this happened, was employing some musicians. I was running some events. I had some dancers. I had some shows going. I'll be honest, the market conditions were exceptionally challenging, but there were still events, and the musicians and the freelancers were still out there doing their work until it all came to a screeching halt. And the fundamental reality is that the expenses keep coming out of the bank account and there's no income. There's no income from work that's already been conducted and should have been paid for. There's no income because there's no work. It's been 3-4 months. There's no income. I need to get back to work. Monetizing online is going to be a tedious process. It's going to take time. It's not going to earn the kind of incomes that live events was earning, not anytime soon. It has its own challenges. You can see streaming platforms like Spotify and Google Music and YouTube, they pay out tiny amounts per stream for those, for those content creators. And I think that it's not going to be sustainable to generate an income from that. Furthermore, I've had inquiries for people to perform, and there's just been even more difficulty and challenges associated with getting them happening. I had one particular client contact me for a very private and intimate dinner in a hotel villa. And unfortunately, the hotel wouldn't approve a performer to come into that villa, no matter how far in distance they were from that couple there. And it just couldn't happen. So there's obviously a lot of there's a lot of regulation that and a lot of health and safety that needs to be addressed before those things happen, but they really need to happen promptly. Yeah.
They do, and I think, Dan, if we come back to you, because I know you've been doing a lot of work in terms of the health and safety of physically getting us back online, and we know there's no clarity, and there's a lot of I'm going to use the word rage. There's a lot of emotion and passion about the fact that there's not a lot of clarity, and you can do certain things and you can't do certain things. So, from that perspective, you've been working with Gallo Glass and looking at real practical solutions.
Yeah, so on that note, first of all, live events will come back. You know, they will come back sooner rather than later, but they will possibly, more than likely, come back in a small staggered staged approach, which means that they will grow in scale, so that hopefully by the end of the year, we can get back to a semi-normal event season. That's everybody's ambition. We all know that, especially for the UAE, live events play such a pivotal role in the whole tourism industry and the GDP of this country. And especially look at the trade centre, they need exhibitions. So yeah, we've been working with Gallo Glass, and if anyone wants this information, please do message me directly. But they've been working on a series of business resumption documents, a 4-part series that looks at the different stages of how we can get back to doing work safely. They're not by any means complete. Health and safety is such a contentious issue, especially within this region. And there's lots of people which will have an opinion and want to be part of that conversation. It's been very challenging to get everybody together.
Yeah.
But just so everyone's aware that those documents have been shared with ILEA. They are available, so if anyone wants them, please do get them. ILEA have also shared them through to the Crisis Committee, to the people at the top, through Khalid and the team at DXB Live in the Trade Centre. And then also personally, we've also shared them with DTCM and other entities. So those discussions are happening. And I think everybody is very much aware that we want live events back. This is what we do. We need them, and it's very relevant to this economy. And we need to get back safely to make sure we look after the well-being of everybody we're working with and our audiences, but also return confidence. We need people to come to them. We need people to want to come to our events. We need to do it safely.
And so two things. I'm going to come across to you, Sudeep, in 1 second. But just to let you know, we've actually had to lose. Mark was listening, Hill from Miley, and he's left. But he has said that we can share his email address, and anyone who wants to send him questions or ideas or whatever, that ILEA are ready and willing to be listening. So, and a lot of people have said, what are these platforms? Again, get online. There's the professional musicians of the UAE. There is the chart. Link in with Charles Chaplin. He's leading the conversation for artists and performers. There is a Women in an Events WhatsApp group. If you would like to join that, reach out to me. It's an absolutely amazing community group. There's Female Fusion, Fearless in Business on Facebook group. Get onto Facebook, get onto your WhatsApp, speak to your community, speak to other people and see who they are talking to, and make sure your voice is heard. Simon, Cooper and Charles are writing a lot of stuff that they're passing on to ILEA so that they can present that to people like DTCM. They're talking about the things that you are all writing about, which is trade licenses, the costs for permits, the costs for operating. We're starting to see things happening like you don't have to have a physical office to have the trade license. Things are starting to move, but every voice needs to be heard. And now's the time to tell the right people who are directing the conversation upwards. Sudeep?
Yeah, just to add up to what the question is, when it will all start. I was in the other group, which is a movie production group, which is more or less to what we do, in a way that they shoot, they have crew on site, they do stuff. They have reopened, and there is a thick document as to what safety standards has to be taken care. So my request is, if we all in this group, like the 6 of us, can pledge that we create a document for the health and safety, as rightly Dan told, for reopening of event industry with our perspective in it, and having the hotels being put up into our group and having their perspective on that, and then giving out to ILEA, and then they giving it out to DTSM. I think then we are talking about a track, and when is the deadline to start off all again.
Catherine?
Just a quick one on that. Yeah, I've seen that, because I also cross over into the film industry, and I've seen that document. And what's also good, that will be a really great resource as we're coming together, is WHO have released documents as well on advice for mass gatherings and how to deal with this in after the pandemic. So that'll be a really good document to use. And actually, it's positive to see these documents are coming out. And like, for example, the news of Germany looking at how they're going to open their events industry. And it's moving in the right direction. We just need to get there as quickly as possible and safely as possible.
Dave?
I was just going to say that, I mean, this is great to have this conversation, and I really welcome it and more. One thing to remember is we are very different from the rest of the world. Our entire ecosystem has been put together in a very short amount of time. We've got some of the best practitioners from anywhere here. We have an opportunity, while the world is frozen and just come out of lockdown, to start putting things in place to dominate the world. I really mean it. We can sit there and lick our wounds and say, I want it to be the way it was and stuff. Forget that. Think bigger. Dubai as an entity, every single person here has a chance to participate and really make that happen. You just have to think a bigger game than what we ever thought before. And I really think we can do this.
There's a note there from Rebecca Wilson, hi Rebecca, to say that, you know, not everybody is entrepreneurial. And again, I'm probably going to say it twice in a whole webinar, but not everyone is pivoting, and that's fine. You know, you don't have to pivot. Dan and I have been talking about this all week. You don't have to reinvent yourself. If you want to, that's great, but there are other ways to do it. And like I say, you do have a community. You do have other people to reach out to. And one thing that we haven't touched on today, which I want to touch on quite lightly, and I know that everyone on this panel will, is mental health. It's very challenging. We've talked about positivity, but we also need to talk about the fact that you do have a community. No one's alone. You can reach out to anyone on this panel. Charles has dropped over there on the right on the where you can go to get involved with his conversation. There's a lot of people here who can help. There's food banks happening. There's donations happening. All of that is happening over there in the conversation on the left. We are going to have to wrap up in about 4 minutes. So I just want to come back to kind of the big topics here, which are what practical solutions are actually physically happening right now. And we know that those lists are being made and given to ILEA, and they're passing them on. So do all get involved in that. So I'll just do a little roundup with you all now, Catherine. If you want to just do your kind of final roundup on future of live events and how we can support, and what you think is the most important thing right now that people should be doing.
I think the important thing is just to be flexible, be ready to go, be nimble, but also I'm really positive about the events industry and it coming back. What I think it's great, and especially for Dubai, what I've seen with a lot of European clients I'm having conversations with is they're moving events to Dubai, especially for 2021, because they have a real faith that we're going to be able to handle them in a real health and safety manner. And it was great when Forbes released that article a couple of weeks ago about the safest places post-COVID, and we were number 11th. And that just reinforces Dubai's position that as an live events place, I think we're being looked at not just in the UAE, globally as well. People are looking at us to host the events.
Okay, Dan. He's gone, what? Well, I'm just doing around it. What do you think is your kind of takeaway from this, and what should people be focusing on right now? What's the practical things that people can be doing to move this conversation forward? I know Tyler's just said there seems to be a lot of people having a lot of conversations. And the nice thing is that all of those conversations are coming back to rest with ILEA.
Yeah, sorry, but my computer just completely meltdown then. But yeah, completely agree. And, you know, I've been part of that. We're all having these fragmented discussions, but ultimately it's all trying to come to one solidified position. So I think, you know, we do need to start joined up thinking, get involved in ILEA. It might not be the right association for everybody, but it's the only association that we have right now for the events industry. So please do join it. I don't work on commission. Just get involved. The only way to change the industry is by actually being part of it and to really help drive that. You know, it's a voluntary association, so they need members and they need people to push that further forward. But I agree with Catherine, events will come back. I don't want to be sat watching stuff in a digital environment. I'm sorry. You know, I want to go to an event. I want to see my friends. I want to get sweaty. Like, I just want to go out and do stuff and experience stuff. And I think after all of this, you know, we've been through we've been through a really shit time. Sorry for swearing. But eventually, when we all come out of this, we're all going to want to go back to enjoyment and to having these great experiences and to doing something which is just fun and nice and collective with people where we can touch them. So events will come back. I think they'll come back stronger. They'll different, stronger.
Stewie, they have. Get in touch. The current memberships are free at ILEA, so you are able to get involved. So I would urge everybody to do it. The change comes from us. We're asking a lot of them. And yes, I agree that there has been vague direction, but now that is all coming together. So yes, I think we can lobby ILEA to have more of a weekly update on where we're at and what's happening. I know Dan has been pushing them very hard on that.
Max, sorry, just jump in though, because a lot of people do have opinions and voices, and it's very easy to expect an association to do everything for us.
They have to do it themselves.
We have to do it ourselves as well. But also, if you do join, then take a role, take a position. If you want to be the person which can help put together a newsletter, put together that newsletter. Because if we're expecting the board to do it and the people within there, please bear in mind that they are volunteers. They do have businesses which are struggling like the rest of us. So we all need to be the people which are going to take on some of that responsibility as well.
Paul?
Yeah, and look, everyone needs to take responsibility. I agree. Some people are more entrepreneurial than others. Some will not be able to pivot, and they don't have to. They have skills that are already fantastic. And I would like to propose that we all come together. We plan an event together. We approach the DTCM and the government to show, like David said, how Dubai entertainment, Dubai events can lead the world in a unified effort. Show how we are full of local talent, how we can collaborate with international talent, and do it all in a fair and mutually beneficial, productive manner. If you're not entrepreneurial, that's fine. Look, I will offer my services as a saxophone player, as an event manager, and I'll have the Vento Entertainment stage at this event. That's what I can offer. Everyone has something to offer. Let's come together and put on a Dubai post-COVID-19 opening event. Do it healthy, do it safely, do it productively, do it fairly. All together.
Right. That's you. Sudeep, quick final word.
Yeah, just to put it to the final word is, first thing is collaborate. Second is upgrade your CV. Make sure you're there, you're known to the agencies. And an urge to event agencies is make sure that you reach out to your client. If the client has got any kind of work which the vendors can do in meantime, which can keep them busy, keep these people busy. I understand that these are the people who will make sure when the event is back, your event is successfully taken care. So just few things to add up. Thank you.
Dave, fast, because I have to hand back to Informer and I'm going to get told off because we're nearly there. We nearly made it in an hour.
Two things: think bigger than Dubai, and the second thing, can we have a group hug? Come on, bring it in.
So I'm going to hand back over to the team at Informer. Thanks to them so much for having us. And thanks to you all. You've been so super patient while I try and traverse terrible bandwidth and you all asking questions and trying not to say the word pivot.
Herding cats.
And herding kittens, Paul, legend. I think we've lost Informer.
Well done, Maxine. You've been amazing, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. What a pleasure to have such an open conversation with everybody here. Thank you for representing our community together.
Thanks, guys. It was really, really good to have you all. Thanks so much. And anyone who's sent me messages, yes, we will get the WhatsApp groups out to you, and I'll get the Informer guys to send some stuff out. And thanks, Nadine. I just had it cut. All right, guys. We'll hopefully.
Thank you
guys. Thank you so much for
all. Thank you so much.
All of you, to all of our attendees. Thank you for your time. And we will be in touch with you all soon.
I think Informer's connecting here. Anyway, thanks to Informer. I think that's the last bit that we need to
thanks
reference.
To Informer, yes.
Thanks Informer and the Middle East event.
So I think it's time to leave.